Welcome to the Testpocalypse. In today's video, I am getting ready for my 40th birthday party, where the theme was come up with your own personal apocalypse and dress to match. My look is based on the Earth's rotation coming to a halt and half the world being covered in eternal darkness, the other eternal sunlight. My look began with some sewing, and I picked out 3 different fabrics, all in a sort of dirty, warm grey color. The first one is what I used to make the harem pants from, a very soft, non-stretchy fabric with low transparency. The second fabric I ended up not using for the final look, so we can skip that. And then the third fabric was used mainly for the hood. It is more sheer and transparent than the other fabrics, because I wanted my character to be able to see through it if needed. I also used a color-matched elastic band, which I wasn't sure I would use at first, but I did, and then obviously a matching thread for everything. This is a quick drawing I did of the concept. At first, the second fabric that I ended up scrapping was used to create this sort of wraparound crop top, but I found a better option for that mid-process. I started by creating the harem pants. I laid the fabric out folded in half and used a pair of leggings as a guide or pattern. They were folded in half as well and placed on top of the fabric. The idea was to add more fabric both at the top and bottom, as I wanted to create folds in the pants to make them extra baggy looking. So as you can see, I have more fabric both below and above the leggings. To keep the fabric from separating, I pinned the 2 folded halves together and then began by cutting it into separate pieces. Then I cut from the middle of the waist down to the crotch with some seam allowance, and as I wanted baggy harem pants, not tight leggings, I took the crotch down quite a bit, before moving the scissors inwards and cutting down the rest of the leg. I then turned those 2 cut pieces over, placed them onto the fabric, and used them as a stencil to cut the pieces for the other leg. So the pants are made up of 4 pieces, 2 left ones and 2 right ones. I then began the tedious process of creating those folds, as you can see on the 2 halves to the right. When the folds are in place, the length is the same as for the leggings. I did end up changing this in a later part of the process, but we'll get to that. So I just placed the folds where I thought it looked good for the first pant leg, and then laid the other pant leg out beside it and recreated the folds in exactly the same spots, so that they'd match. I folded and pinned the entire long outer side and the inner leg, but not the waist to crotch part. So yeah, just pinching the fabric to create a fold, making sure it's in the right spot, and then pinning that down. Here we have 2 of the pant legs with the folds in place. And then I sewed along the long side and the inner leg seam for both pant legs, securing the folds. Then I opened up the pant legs and got started on the crotch seams. I located the top of the inner leg seam on both pant legs, made those 2 points meet, and then pinned all the way down, which is along the crotch where the harem pouch is. By the way, if you want to make super easy harem pants without all these tricky folds, I do have a tutorial for that as well here on YouTube. And then I sewed those one at a time, so sewing everything together into the actual harem pants shape. Next, I tried the pants on to measure and place my waistband. I pinned the waistband together into a loop and went back and forth across that a couple of times with my sewing machine. To pin the waistband onto the pants, I had them with the insides facing outwards and placed the band around the pants, about 1.5 to 2 bandwidths down. I pinned the 2 sides first, and then to get the placement of the needles right, I stretched the fabric out with the band, found the middle, placed a pin, and then repeated that until I'd gone all the way around. This process helps spread out the elasticity from the waistband evenly over the non-elastic fabric of the pants. And then when I sewed the waistband in place, I made sure to stretch everything out as I was sewing. You then get these nice folds in the fabric from the elasticity in the waistband. And to get a nice and clean waist, I folded the now sewn on elastic band over 2 times, using the same stretching and pinning process as I previously did. So fold the waist over 2 times, pin it down, stretch the fabric out, do the folds again, and then place the next needle, and so on. Do so until you've pinned your entire waistline, and then again stretch the fabric out as you sew that in place. So after this, I decided to shorten the legs of my pants and hem them as well, and I forgot to record this, but hemming is easy, you just fold and sew. Next, I moved on to the hooded scarf, using that thin, transparent, non-stretchy fabric. I first folded it in half along the long side and cut it into 2 equal pieces. This fabric rips, so I only had to cut the first bit and then I could rip it in 2. I then pinned the 2 pieces together by one of the short sides and sewed along that line, creating one very long scarf. To make the scarf even longer and more interesting, I then cut out the ends into this sort of half point. Pinned that loose pointy piece back onto the scarf and sewed that on. And I did that for both sides of the scarf, so that the ends were thin and pointy. And then the scarf was done, and can easily be wrapped around the neck and worn with or without that thick middle part as a sort of hood. The final part of the outfit process was cutting thin slits of fabric, tying it together into a long string, and wrapping it around my hands and arms. It is super simple, but it really helps the look pop. I also did slightly thicker wraps around my feet and ankles. Then it was makeup time, starting with my Fix and Perfect primer by Rimmel. Then I used my regular Airbase foundation in shade 2, mixed in with some shade 0, which is white. This character doesn't see the sunlight at all, so I wanted her to be pale, but not like clown pale because that would look weird with the rest of my skin showing. I am naturally pale though, but I just added a little bit of extra white to it. Then I used a cold brown micro shadow from Makeup Store in the shade Design to do some shading on my face using an angled face brush. No blush today, no sunlight, remember? But I did use my Star Kiss highlighter from Revolution Makeup to give myself a moonish looking glow. and I did some shading on the nose and put highlighter there and on my Cupid's bow as well. For the eyes, I used my NYX Jumbo Liner in Milk for the lower waterline and as a primer for the eyeshadow, both beneath the eye and on the lids, and I smudged it with a finger. I then used my Essence 24 Hour Ink Liner in black to tightline my upper waterline. You look insane doing it, but it makes a huge difference. For the eyeshadow, I used my Coastal Scents palette and this cold grayish purple, and kind of sloppily applied it with a blending brush, both underneath the eye and on the lid. This was not meant as a beauty look, but rather the look of not being in the sun for years and years, so I packed it on quite heavily and took it down low as well as high up. As a fun special effect, I got out my Kryolan Collodium, which is a liquid that creates a temporary indent in the skin that looks like a scar. I wanted it to look like somebody had cut me across the eye, so I measured out where I wanted the scar, put the liquid across those lines, and then did some quick shading with a blusher to make it pop more. I switched to transparent silicone tunnels for my ears here, but later switched to steel ones to match these awesome bird skull earwigs that I got. By the way, those are from Crazy Factory if anyone's wondering. Oh, and I also draw a black line below my lip using eyeliner for a sort of tribal feeling, and I put on a tiny bit of mascara. And then threw a white contact lens on the eye with a scar, put some elf ears on to suggest my character has super hearing, and here is the finished look. What would your apocalyptic backstory and look have been for my party? Feel free to share your ideas in the comments. Thanks for watching, and remember, do no harm, but take no shit. I'll see you next time.